What is happening, everyone? It's Michael Wine here. You guys know me as Gundemonium Works, and we are live. This is part 2 of the Old to Gold entry. My Old to Gold entry, that is the contest put on by USA Gundam Store. And it's basically an old kit from 1996 or older. I'm building an old Orgeroid Orgus kit, also known as a Robotech Changer from Revell and 1984 production. Let me get up here to comments, make sure I want to get everybody chiming in. We'll see what's going on. So I've done some work this week from what we did, finished up last week, and I'll go over that. And then I'm trying to modify the hands, because I just don't like the hands that are on this kit. Just these, back in the day when they made these kits, they, nothing like a modern Gundam kit where you have individual articulated fingers or nice looking, just even if it's not movable, to just make nicer stuff. So I'll talk about that. But anyway, let's get going here. We're going to start the show, and let me bring on the intro. All right. So, like I said, we did some more on this this week, and we'll go over what's been done, and then we'll start modifying the hands, or at least the hand attachment is really the part that I'm challenged with tonight. Let me just go to downlock here, and you'll see the bench. So, and some of the parts that we finished. This is not glued together, but I've got this. The main gun here. I've still got some scribe work to do in one of these little vents on the side where the seam was. I've got to clean those edges up. The head, I've still got a little bit of work to do. Chest, I've got some ideas what I'm going to do with this as well. And then the back portion here, this is where I've done most of the work this week. And then the hands. So anyway, let me get down to a bit closer here. We'll go over what's already been done. So let me grab my glasses here. So last week I was primarily working on the chest portion here, and I was cutting out some plastic plate to fill in these gaps. You can see where the original model, it's almost the same color, but if I tilt it, you can see. So these triangular pieces on either side, that's the original model. But then there was this huge gap between these panels here on either side. This is not glued together yet. So I cut the plastic out, laminated those in, and filled in that area. What I'm probably going to do is fill in this back area here as well, because the head will kind of sit in this. There's like a hinge portion on the neck. You can see here. So this kind of sits in here like this. Can rock back and forth. So there's actually quite an empty space there that I want to fill up. So I'm also might add some rivets or some other greebles to kind of fill in those blank areas that I put in with plastic. So that's pretty much where I got with that. I haven't decided what I'm going to use. I might use rivets or something else to install along these edges, and some basic plastic stuff too. I'm going to look through my collection of extra parts and maybe put some, just laminate some, machine-looking parts down there to finish off that. The back here, there's a hinge thing here. So there we go. So this has you assemble this in this position here. I'm not exactly sure how this attaches to the chest, but this piece is going to eventually hook on right here like this. These two pegs go right in there. So I think the back sits somewhere around here when it is connected. This kit is designed to transform. Even though I am building it in a static form, I'm still assembling everything in a way that would, in the way that the kit is designed for now. And then if I need to, I'll go back through and, hey, what's up, Gideon? How you doing, man? I haven't seen you. It's been a minute. So then I'll be securing everything in place, and then my first chance to actually drop in. Nice. Well, good. I'm glad to have you, man. It's good to see you. You know, we're working the Washington Fair this year. We just completed weekend number 1. We got 5 more weeks to go. Excuse me, 4 more weeks to go. Anyway, we're talking about the backpack here, or the back portion. I would say backpack, but this will attach again like this. I'm not exactly sure the position that these hinges and stuff need to be in yet. It's been a long time since I built this kit as a teenager. But the majority of the work was actually done to this portion back here. There are these vents that had to go on. There's 3 pieces here that had to go on. But the problem was when this piece glues into the shell, essentially, there was an uneven gap. There was actually a raised section. So the panel on this lower piece went in, and then it was a step up to where these others, where these vents were actually supposed to go down. To me, I just couldn't get them to. You wouldn't be able to glue them in there. And actually, about a minute. Appreciate the shot. No worries, Gideon. There was no way to glue these down and have them even. They would just be they would want to rock back and forth. So what I did was I took 2 pieces of 1/2 mil plastic. This is extra out of a larger sheet that I had some scraps, and I shaped the first piece to sit down and level off that area, and then I put another piece that went all the way to the back, so that completed the whole level there and sealed all this off. And then I was able to glue these straight down. So if you look closely, see if I can get it to focus, you can see the layers. Okay, so you can see the original, the plastic on the kit's kind of a greenish color, but then you can see that white strip going across, all the way across. That is the fill-in area there. So, and I just dropped it. No worries. My elbow stuck to the table when I went to move. So by doing that, then this looks a lot nicer. And once I glue everything in, now when I paint this, it's going to look nice. And then there's not these huge gaps underneath these vents up top because everything's hollow. So where these vents come in here, there was these big holes up top, but now that they're raised up, it actually fills in that area. You don't see that stuff. So that's where we're at with that portion. I'm setting that aside because I still have a little bit of work to do with it, but the main thing I was trying to do, the next step is to assemble these hands. And the hands on these kits, I mean, this is one of them here. And you can see the fingers are all one piece. The thumb is a separate portion that you're supposed to glue on. They're just plain. There's nothing you can really do with them. Again, this is made to transform, so these are supposed to slide in to the arm, like the forearm portion. But I'm not doing that. I'm having them in a fixed position. So I decided to try something new. So I went through my stock of extra parts, and I came across these. This is a small pack of master grade Gundam hands at 1/100 scale, and they're actually very close to the size of the hands in this kit. So they should work out nicely. It should look a lot nicer. So how do you attach them? That's what I was trying to figure out tonight. Was you can see this is like the wrist portion here, and there's a hole, and then you've got this on the back of the hand. There's like a peg. So this is designed to go inside. Let's see if I can do this real quick. I'm just going to open this up. All right. So when it sits together, it basically just swivels. The only thing this thing's designed to do is swivel back and forth. So how do you attach one of these other, master grade hands? Let me pull this back out. So you got this hole. I don't remember the diameter of the hole, but I've got a closed fist here. There's a couple of different choices you have on those runners, and then you've got like an open hand like this. So I made both of these just to experiment. I might have the right hand because the main gun is on his right arm, so it might be more appropriate to have a closed fist on that side, and then an open hand on the left side. What's up, Nick? How you doing? Good to have you. For once, I show up on time and you're late. So, touche, right? So here's the challenge I've got. On these 1/100 hands, there is a little wrist portion here. And I just snap that on. So you see this peg here. It's got a little ball joint. And then it just kind of allows, it's supposed to allow for the hand to swivel as well as a little bit of wrist movement as well. Problem is that this hole is too big. So there's no tension there. It just falls right out. So my first idea was to, bath time ran late with the kid. All right, I'll give you a pass. So my first idea was I glued these hands together, and then I took my couple of chisels, and I just basically scribed out and cut out this peg section here, and then I was going to reshape it and drill a hole down the center at 5/32, which is the exact size of this peg. What I did in my drill bit here, this is a piece of looks like 1.5 mil perhaps, and at 5/32 it's a tight fit. So I thought, great, I've got a drill bit that's the exact size. I'll cut this piece off, and then I'll use a center punch and slowly start stepping up my drill bits until I get to 5/32, and then I'll just have a small peg attached to the little ball joint here that I can just insert in the wrist section in this, the way that the original hand went in, and that way it'll slip around. But problem is that as I started stepping up the drill bit, it was just that peg size, that hole size is just too close to 5/32, so it just disintegrated on me as I tried to step up. So what do we do next? Here's my idea, and this is where we're going to start with tonight. The reason I didn't glue these is because I wasn't sure how I was going to. I'm glad I didn't glue these together yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a square piece, small piece to fit inside this. Okay, I'm going to laminate a piece inside these two halves of this wrist portion here. And then I'm going to do the same on the outside. I'll laminate a square piece on the front. What's up, Julius? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are checking in from, everybody. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have two pieces laminated, one inside, one outside. And then when everything dries, I will use my files and my sanding sticks, shape this outer piece to match the bevels of this wrist portion, and then draw an X on it with a pencil. That'll give me my center point, and drill my 5/32 hole down the center. Then I should have two layers that are slightly separated. I may end up filling the hole in with some CA glue and some accelerator just to give me even more strength in that. Once I laminate the first piece inside, then I can, it's quite a bit of glue though to fill that in, but that's why I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet, but because basically the thickness of this plastic will be a void in between those two laminated layers. So if I can fill that in, I'll do that and not make a mess of it. It's going to be quite a bit of CA to fill that spot, but it will give me the added strength once I go and drill down the center of it. So that's where we're at. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to start doing right now. I've got these pieces here. This is some pretty thick stuff and should work and should give me some nice structural strength inside here that these hands will stick in there. And then, like I said, because it's the same size, I should be able to press this in and it should pop right into place and stay there nicely without coming out and just falling off the kit. But then these will look a lot nicer, I think, in the finished kit rather than. I may look through my stash and see if I've got any more hands as well, but just figure different choices. But this was the first pack I came across. I don't think I've got any extras out of a kit. This was like those separate little baggies you can buy, upgrade parts. This example here, they show him holding a Zaku gun. There's even a triggered version hand that has the open trigger, but I'm not using that because he's not actually holding a weapon in his hands. It's just mounted to the side of the arm, which you can see in some of the later steps. We'll get to that where this attaches. That's what these two pegs are for on this gun, is they fit into the side of the right arm and mount basically on the forearm. All right, so let's get started. CA glue is yes, you are correct, sir. As Gideon's asking if CA glue means that is exactly what I'm talking about. And here is I'm using Bob's Smith Industries. This is a pretty common glue that a lot of people use. And it is exactly what you said. It's I'm not even sure how to say it, the cyanide correlate, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm hitting it. I usually hit it with this Instaset. This is a large bottle here that I just put into some small little bottles with a needle on the end. And that allows me to precisely put a drop of the accelerator on there and dry it up, rather than, some of the bottles you can buy, the smaller ones come with a pump, like a mister, and it just makes a mess of things because you spray the whole thing. You got it on your hands, you got it on your kit. This way I can control where the accelerator goes and just put a drop on the glue that I'm trying to dry up, and it works pretty well. But there's one thing I will note that the accelerator does age and does get old. I noticed one time, because I had the same bottle for a long time, it started to almost turn colors, a little bit of gold, a yellowish color, and it wasn't working quite as well. And I just noticed every time I used it, the glue wasn't fully curing like it should. So keep that in mind when you're going to do this kind of thing. Don't put too much in the bottle if you're not going to use it on a regular basis. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to take these apart, like I said, and I got to cut a small piece that will fit inside of this. It doesn't need to be too terribly large. Just a small square piece that I can get in there. And this will fit. Excuse me. This will fit nicely in here. There's enough space for this thick plastic to fit in there and not interfere with this little hinge portion. This is the wrist, and like I said, this is going to fit inside the forearm and actually slide on a track inside the arm. I may not fix that in place. I don't see why I wouldn't need to. Again, this is a variable kit. It's made to transform. If anybody's wondering, if you don't know, for those like Gideon that may not have seen, this is the kit I'm building here. Very old, 1984 production, and it's made to transform into. And actually, there's 4 versions you can transform. They only show 3 on this box, but you can actually have 4 different configurations. One is like a flying version of the Gerwalk here on the side, and then you got the Orgeroid, and then the tank version. So there's actually a Gerwalk, but then you could have it in a flying form with the legs are behind it and the feet are folded up. But again, I'm only doing this one here, and we are using red, or actually, it might be red and brown. The color scheme I'm going for is the original Orgus series color scheme, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here is the color scheme I'm going to be doing. So I still have the red highlights, but there's some brown accents, black, a lot of detail work, And then lastly, what I may do is actually paint it just like this anime paint scheme. I had some pretty good success and learned a lot in the last 2 kits that I did in an anime paint scheme. So, like Jeff Chan, what's up, Jeff? I ruined this kit as a kid. You did you? What'd you do wrong, Jeff? Good to have you in. Welcome in. I'd like to hear what happened. I mean, how old were you, and was it just too complicated or something like that? How did it get ruined? I wish I'd hung on to these. I had several of these old variable kits, like the Mospita Cyclones and the Valkyries that in the Mosquito series. I call it Valkyrie just for lack of remembering what it's actually called. But yeah, I gave them all to a friend of mine when I was moving one time out of the area, and I was like, "Here, you just want these things?" And now I'm kicking myself for doing that because I really, really wished I had these old vintage kits. And so, getting back to this competition. This is an online contest from USA Gundam Store. It's called Old to Gold. You can find all the information on USA Gundam's website, or if you follow Zach Aurelius on Facebook or Instagram. I don't know if he has an Instagram account or not, but he's on Facebook, and you can see all the details there. There's a short video, and he talks about all the rules and how to enter, blah blah blah. But you have to enter a kit that's older than 1996. Now, I had those other Mosquito kits, and I couldn't verify their old EMI kits. There was no production date printed on the box or anything. So, in order to not cause any arguments from other entrants and so like that, basically not being able to prove how old the kits were, I decided to just not use them. And I remembered I had these really old vintage kits, and on the box it had the date, so that's why I'm using this one. Let's see. Jeff says complexity, no access to paint or proper tools did it in. Oh boy. Someone say vintage. Yeah, I saw your post as well, Mike. Forrest Ghost says vintage because you just had some vintage kits show up to your house, right? I had a question. That what's the name of the Scope Dog? Is that one also a vintage kit, or is that something new that just looks like vintage type artwork on it? And which one are you building? Because there's two in that picture. So which one are you going to use? I'm curious to know. Anyway, so we've got till September something. I can't remember the date as a deadline. I may not make the deadline. I've got a lot going on the weekends. So the only time I have to work on this is during the week, after work, and in the evenings. So we'll see. We'll see how far I get. Hopefully I'll be able to finish it. I'm going to try. So anyway, let's get going here, cracking away. I'm going to cut some of these pieces. Again, the inside one doesn't have to be terribly clean. It just needs to be, needs to fit in there because it's not going to be seen. So I'm not overly concerned about the appearance of it. I just want to make sure it fits in here. So I got to cut this a little bit thinner. I'm just using some pretty big nippers to just chop this down so this fits in here. I'm just going the inside like this. So once I get the width, I may cut a new piece actually. Once I get the width of this, I'll trim it down, and then actually, let's go this way. Or sand it down one way or the other. And then make sure that I can fit it in there with both pieces. I'm building the Allstall from Crusher. Okay, so that's the little tank-looking dude. That is a cool kit. I was like, man, that's nice. It's just enough because, again, one of the rules in this contest is it has to be a humanoid-style mecha. So even you can use a Macross Valkyrie, but the only two versions you can produce for this contest would be the Battleroid and the Gerwag. You cannot use a fighter version because even though it's technically a Valkyrie, the fighter version is a jet, so you can't use that. So you can use it has to look somewhat like humanoid, like this Orgeroid kit here, definitely humanoid. So the tank tracks are great for what he's got, and then of course it's got a humanoid style head and arms and stuff like that. So I think you're fine. Did you already make your entry, Mike? Scope Dog is an old Takara kit from the 80s. Oh, nice. So you technically could use either one. I'm just curious. Did you already enter? Did you get your okay from Zach? Because you have to send an email in with a photograph of the kit, unbuilt, your name, your country, and the date on it, and then you have to wait. You don't have to wait to start, but you need to get approval from Zach to, that you're officially entered in the contest. So it took him about 2 days to get back to me. But like he says in the video, you don't have to wait for him to start working on the kit as long as you know that it's a viable kit. You don't have to wait. So I don't think this is going to be, I'm going to take this off just for a second. I don't think this is going to be narrow enough for these two to close. I think I got to trim it down. Oh, actually, look at that. It might actually fit. Okay, good deal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop this little piece in. I'm going to laminate it to the back. I want to make sure it glues really tightly to the back side of this. And then I've got to glue these two pieces together, and hopefully it will also laminate to the other one. I can't really, I'm going to see if I can do this. I don't know if there's really any way. I might have some space from the back when I put this piece in there. Yeah, it looks like I might be able to get a toothpick or something in there and press on the back of it to make sure it glues to the front of this. Okay, cool. You got the green light. Nice. That's awesome. Can't wait to see what you do. I don't know how much time you have, but I typically don't like deadlines, but it sounded like something fun to do. I was just finishing up snapping the 1/35th scale. What was it? I was doing I'm having a mind blank right now. The core fighter. And so it was kind of perfect timing. You guys were talking about it and came up with the idea to do it. So what I'm doing is I'm putting down some thin cement here, laminating this piece in to the back of this, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. And these have literally no pegs. That's one thing I've noticed about this kit. Some of them have tiny little pegs, to line things up. These are nothing. They're just straight flat pieces that you're supposed to glue together and line up. And hopefully you do a good job of it, because if you don't, well, there's some hideous looking seams. I mean, the head was kind of the same thing I'm talking about. There was no pegs at all. There was a seam going right down the middle of everything. This inside portion will be painted black, so you're not going to see the seam there. But yeah, it's definitely old school. You kind of forget. You get spoiled by modern Bandai kits. And you build one of these, you're like, oh my god, what was I thinking? So let's see here. These are all the same. So okay, I do need to cut off a little more here. I think I glued this in different directions. So I'm just going to slowly just basically trim off a slight little piece there. So when this comes together, okay, those two halves join. That's what I want to make sure. All right, so I'm going to let that sit and start to dry for a second, just so I can do the other one. And then I'll go in and glue them back together, glue both halves together. Let's see if that's good enough. That should fit right in there. Okay. Don't need to make it doesn't have to be clean. It just has to fit in here because all right. And these two halves are going to come together. Press this in. Right, I'm just pressing on the back. I wonder what I'm doing, because this kind of has a beveled edge inside too, so this piece can only go in so far. I'm just pressing to make sure that it's nice and secured down to that flat inner surface, so all my glue gets evenly wicked in there nicely. Let's see if I got to cut some off here. Yeah, looks like just a little bit. I'm going to trim off just a tiny bit. Because I don't want this piece to, because of that beveled edge, if I press these two together, it will want to push the other side of it apart. I don't want that to happen. I want it to stay nice and close. So I think that's good. Double check this one. Yeah, that looks, I'll take out just a little more. Not much. All right. There we go. Yeah, I could feel it kind of pressing on, when I was pressing it down, I could almost feel it lifting. So because it was just too long and it was hitting that bevel. Okay. First one, second one down. Now we got to put this piece in. So this goes in. Now I've got to glue these two halves together. And it looks like, there's a little bit of a gap. I should be able to get a toothpick in there and press on the back of this once I get these halves together. Fit tab A, null into slot B, null, good. Yeah, exactly. And even the instructions are so rudimentary. It's like, don't glue, don't glue. It's got part numbers. They don't. The runners are individually labeled with letters, but they're not numbered that way. It's actually, even though it's the A runner, it's just 1 through 30, and then the second runner is the B runner, and that's 31 through 49, and so on. So when you see these part numbers on here, they're not labeled by a runner number. It's just part number: 77, 76, 75, 58, 59. So you got to go you got to find that runner that has the number on it, because they're not telling you like a modern Bandai kit where they're actually labeled, A, B, C, D, whatever. Like a modern Bandai kit usually does. All right, so let's set these together. And then before I fully press this, I'm going to, of course, get my glue in there, and then it should squeeze out. Almost. I want to make sure. There we go. Because I want to be able to get good, solid seam fix. So there we go. All right. Because there's no peg on these, no pegs at all, or they want to slide around, so you got to like press them together and make sure you keep your seams lined up as best possible. Yeah, it's just like, and even then they don't quite fit exactly perfect, and that was the whole reason for doing this contest. Is like taking an old kit. They know, going in that you're going to be challenged with fit issues, seams, all sorts of stuff. That's the whole idea behind this. To see what you can do with something that was made a long time ago and not very well. So now I'm going to glue the second one in here. I'm just bringing these two parts close together and then not quite pushing them together because I want my glue to get in there. It's going to seem redundant for the experienced welders because they know what I'm doing here, but for the people that might be watching later on that have not, don't have the experience with thin cement or seam fixing for that matter. All right, just a little more. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to squeeze this together. I have clamps that I could probably put on here, but the problem with these is they're pretty strong. And I found that sometimes because they're squeezing so hard, it kind of causes the pieces, especially without these alignment pegs or anything like that, to kind of deflect. And the last thing I want is to come back and find them glued, just slid off to the side, and then I'm really screwed. So I'd just rather do it by hand for now. So I can see, like, I'll put this clamp on here. Looks pretty good, but I'm just afraid that over time it's going to start sliding around. Okay. So I'm going to let those sit for a sec, because I may end up filling that hole in there with some CA glue there. So, all right. So we got some more pieces here to cut out. Start working on what would basically be the elbow, I guess. And we got the elbow and the forearm. Here's the hands here going into the forearm, and then the elbow portion in the back with another strange polycap in the middle. Gideon says, let's see, I'm going to put this on camera. Here, Gideon says, I've got laser cut wood kit. Osprey. Oh, nice. That is pretty much the same thing. I've had it for a couple of years now, and I'm still working up the courage to pop it out of the box. All the parts I try to build. Yeah, I guess that is. I've done the same thing where I'm looking at something like, man, I really want to build this, but it just scares the hell out of me. Totally get you, man. Totally get it. So I think one of the reasons I'm kind of jumping around with this kit is I'm trying to get a lot of these subsections assembled so then I can see exactly what positions I have to fix parts in for that permanent setting, because I'm not going to make this a transformable kit. It might have some parts that move, but I'm not going to be doing all the different poses. I'm doing just the one pose. So that's why I got the chest piece, the back, doing the arms, kind of assembling everything in subsections, so then I can say, okay, now this is the position I want to fix this in, and I can glue those parts in place. Particularly because a lot of these internals are all with these funky little polycaps here, and you can't use thin cement really on. It doesn't really touch them all that much. I'd have to use CA glue if I'm going to glue them in a permanent position anyway. So let's see, ×2. Yeah. The only thing that's actually labeled by letter and number is the polycaps. All the other parts are just numbered. So I've got them hanging on a pegboard behind me anyway, or in front of my desk. So at least they're in order. That way it's easier for me to find not a polygon, but find a part by number, because I've got all the runners kind of in order. Okay. All right. So then we got two more of these. So there's another polycap that goes in between. Oh gosh. Oh, and that one. Well, that's further on. Okay, never mind. So 10. There's 10. And some of these actually came off of this. And some of the pieces came off the runners too. So they're just sitting aside. I've got a few just kind of sitting here like these. I'm just waiting until I use them. They're sitting aside because I wasn't sure where they were going to go. Osprey, huh? That sounds cool. You being a military man yourself, maybe that's some of the attractions of that kit too. Unless you look like planes, is it to the that's the one with swivelable engines, right? Parts actually move too on the kit, or is it fixed pose? So 64 and 65, so we need two of these. Doing both sides at once here, so there's doubling up on parts. And then 59 and 58, which is also on here. Look at how badly this runner is warped. If I hold it to the camera in this angle, you can see just how bad it's warped. And this is from sitting in a box for so many years. The box was just destroyed. It might have even gotten wet. Even these wing portions here, you can see the curve in them. It's going to be fun getting those straightened out. Oh, see, there's another one just fell off. Some of these, oh, that was actually one I cut off. I thought it was actually one that just fell off the runner again. I guess that's the one with the props that those are the wings. Yeah, you can swing helicopter mode, the forward flight mode. Yeah. So do they move on that kit? It'd be cool. I imagine they do, but couldn't see why they wouldn't make it movable. But you never know. I have to ask. All right, so we're on 14 here, right here. I'm just going to move these parts aside so I can see what I'm doing. Clean up these nubs, and then we'll start gluing stuff together. Aside from the parts that I can see that are visibly warped, the fit hasn't been too terribly bad with this. Seams, of course, are everywhere, but I was kind of surprised at how well they line up. At least you're not dealing, except for the portion I was talking about in the back here that I had to actually put plastic plate in there to even up the two surfaces. That was the only time I really came across something that seemed like it didn't fit right. And the reason I think it was like that is because this back piece, like this whole portion here, when it went into the back, it doesn't really, there was a defining kind of ledge where it was supposed to sit. So it doesn't seem like, you could have moved it up and down. I probably could have made that even. In fact, you can even probably see, you can see the line going through the middle down there. That's a ridge. That's the part that I had to level out back there. Because they were sitting just, they weren't truly, together. There was one was raised by half a mil. So I think I've solved it, and that's on the interior anyway. I'm not too worried about that. You're not going to see that, but yeah, that was the only time that I came across something that was just like, well, these don't fit together perfect. But okay, so you got, so this got a little tiny alignment peg on here. So these polycaps go in. They fit very loosely too. And this one, where's my other one? I cut two of them off. Oh, there it is. Everything's white. All these parts are like off-white, so it's kind of interesting how they go together. Or I mean, it's just like everything. It's hard to find on the board too. All right, so we're gonna glue these two. This is like the other side has like a big round peg that just kind of shoves that polycap down to the other side. So I'm just going to put a quick little tab of glue here just to kind of line these up. But then I'm going to, I'll put more in there. Just so I can get it to squeeze out. I want to get that glue to squeeze out a little bit. That'll help me when it comes to seam fixing later on. Definitely have to sand that one. Got my thumb in it because there's nothing to hold these together. Nothing to really press them together and hold them nicely. It just your fingers get in the way. And now I got fingerprints all over it, but I'm going to sand this thing anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. Just trying to get all my corners lined up. All right, I think I am going to even clamp on this one. Oh, maybe. Oh boy, there. I was using that Mr. Cement, the purple stuff. Works great, I will say. But one thing I also noticed too is that there's not as much working time with it. It tends to glue really fast, and especially with parts like this that I'm constantly eyeballing to make sure they're going to be lined up correctly. I got to be able to move it around a little bit until it's right, because without any alignment pegs or anything, these pieces just go together. You got to make sure they're at least pretty close before. Oh, Julie's got a question. Question for the group about photo etch primer. If I airbrush the photo etch primer on the plastic parts, will the etch primer negatively react to the plastic part? Gosh, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think it would do anything to the plastic. It's just a metal primer versus a plastic primer, so it's made to stick to metal. I don't really think it's going to do anything to it. My suggestion would be, if you're really concerned about it, maybe take an extra piece of runner or something and just spray it on there and see if you get a reaction, or something like that. Other than that, it's like, how do you know for sure unless you just try it? But I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it would react. Just like resin primer is, yeah, it's for resin, but if you spray it on plastic, I'm pretty sure it's not going to do anything to it. Okay, so I'm gluing this second elbow here piece together with this polycap inside. But if anybody else has got any input on that, maybe they can chime in as well. Oh, shit. Sorry about that. I hope my mic was... I just realized I put this microphone on a boom because I was bumping it off my desk a lot when it was sitting next to me. And oftentimes I forget to swing the damn thing over when I'm talking or when I start a broadcast, because I swing it out of the way. And now we're here almost an hour in, 45 or 50 minutes in, and I just realized my boom was over there across the way. So it probably sounds better now than it did. Okay. Enough of that. So those are going to have to dry. I'm tempted to assemble this anyway. Wow, so there's they have no direction on these. I could fix these. Well, I may just have to let these dry first, because these are hinged parts that are supposed to swivel, and if I use a bunch of glue, I may end up not being able to turn these once they set. So I think we're going to have to set these aside and move on until I can come back to it. All right. I can't really do much else with the forearm then, because I've got to put those inside of the arm. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have to go further down the line here. We're going to keep moving forward. I never airbrush Mr. Miller primer. I usually just spot apply it with a brush to make makeup swab. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an idea. Metal primer R. Yeah, if it's a Mr. Color product, like a GSI Creative product, I'm thinking you're safe, because that stuff. I mean, their stuff is amazing. That's all pretty much all I use, except for the glues and stuff that Tamiya makes. But painting wise, I use nothing but Mr. Color. Very few. I use a few enamels, but most of the time it's all Mr. Color lacquers. Harbor Freight has small tools like spring-loaded tweezers. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I've got several pair of tweezers. My go-tos are the God Hand here. It's the GH or G. I can't say GH. Yeah, GH-PS-SH God Hand. They're very precise, very nice, and they're not spring-loaded closed. I don't like to use the ones like these. Here is what I'm talking about. These are closed all the time. You have to press to open them. I just was never able to get used to using these. I'm so used to being, just grasping what I want to grasp. But some people use these. I think George, old school Gunfly, I think he uses these. He prefers them. I don't know. If he was in the room, I could ask him. Saki, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Welcome in. We're just building an old kit here. So I was trying to do the arms. I may even move forward, though. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble these anyway, because I'm impatient that way. Even though these have to move, I just glued these together. But what I'll do is I'll just continuously be, for the next few moments here while these are initially setting, I'm going to keep swiveling them to make sure that they are not gluing together. You're not supposed to glue them together, but obviously it's going to get some glue in there, especially if I've got a seam that I've got to manage. I mean, I just don't understand why this is an old kit. That's why. I mean, of course I know why, right? That's the way they used to do it back in the 80s. I do have a line on these. Building works and Force goes, thank you for the advice. Oh, you're welcome, buddy. Of course, anytime. I mean, that's why I'm here doing this, I think. It's because I share their experiences and then learn new things too. I mean, there's things that I learn from you guys learn from me. It's all good. Gosh, these polycaps are just slippery. There's a little bit of a mold line on these polycaps. I'm not sure we're going to see them, but I'm just trying to knock down that line a little bit. Get you some awesome Tamiya enamels from Sunward Hobbies up in Canada. Okay, I think I bought something from Sunward. Actually, I might have even gotten these guys. Is this what you're talking about? I'm pretty sure that's where I got them from. But yeah, I have a few. I like them for doing reverse washes. That's for sure. A lot of people have used the reverse wash, like when you're doing like a Sinanju or something and they want to do the cuffs. Painting those is always a challenge, but you can do a reverse wash using enamels, and it works brilliantly. And come to think of it, I'm pretty sure that's where I got those from, because there's not a lot of U.S. market stores that have that those Tamiya enamels. And I used to buy, everybody knows the good old testers, right? That's what I used to have. But when I found that I could get Tamiyas, I was like, I'm going to buy those because I know they're going to be good. But they kind of stink, though. Have you noticed that too? They kind of stink. They're strong. As far as enamel paints go, you're like, you open the bottle, you're like, whoa, stinky. Julie says, I've had to prime and sand my contest entry twice to get rid of the seam. That's part of it. Yep. I used to say the old phrase, remember the old shampoo commercials? Lather, rinse, repeat. Like, you'll go through 3 or 4 waves of primer just because you're trying to get the seams or seam fixes or whatever stuff out of it. Totally get it. Yep, that's part of the process. All right, so I'm going to glue these together. No, I probably shouldn't, but you know what? Live dangerously, right? Like I said, while this is gluing, I'm going to continuously move it, keep it moving. Still have seams to fix, but I'm going to keep the parts moving so they don't adhere to each other. And with any luck, it'll make a nice tight joint too, because I'm just going to let that glue wick in there like I normally would. Squeeze it together. And then we're just going to do this. I've also got to make sure they're lined up. Because again, these don't have alignment pegs. So they'll fit, but then they'll kind of deflect if you don't. Gosh, I can feel the glue trying to grab. This is going to be fun. Saki says, let's see, I'll put that up there. Beats the hell out of testers, which is, yeah, that's all we got here is true. You can always get primer G, just brush it on the seams instead of spraying the whole thing. That's true. But you could also use, what's the other one? Like Mr. Surfacer 500 with a brush. That always works well too, because it's thick. You know, it's not supposed to be a thin primer. It's made to fill gaps and all that stuff, and then it sands really nicely. And it's a Mr. Color product, so you know it's going to be good. So I've got to keep this moving here until these at least set up a little bit. Because by gluing these together, now they want to obviously glue in place. And I can actually feel them dragging a little bit because I know there's glue in there. But as I'm doing this, it's going to just kind of, that plastic is just going to kind of eventually stop sticking to it, you know, each other, and then you'll be fine. Because I want to be able to move these at least a little bit. But it does kind of create some tension in the joint too. So at least there's that. It's not... but you can feel it loosen up as it starts to dry and that glue stops adhering to the other side. It starts to loosen up a little bit. So I'm going to come back to that. I know it's not going to move while I do this second side, or it's not going to stick to itself. Is there a difference in this? Oh, shit. There is. Oh, no. I hope I did that right. Oh, boy. I might have to pull this apart. There is a difference in this. Oh boy. Okay, I've got to make a quick observation here. Gosh, it doesn't look like it, but it shows like a different... I guess it isn't. Okay. No, I guess it isn't. The picture makes it look like there's a huge difference in each side of this kind of dog bone piece here. But if you look at... Gosh, if you look at the piece itself, there isn't an up or down to it. So at first I thought, oh my God, I've got this upside down. It does kind of look like that one looks a little off center, or offset, but then I cannot tell. That one side fits tighter in there. That's interesting. Because like if I turn this around, oh no, that peg I guess is just as tight. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that this does not, I mean, it really doesn't look like it would change much at all anyway. All right, I think I'm okay. So this is still moving free now. In fact, it's probably dried enough now. There's not even going to worry about it. But I just wanted to make sure that that dog bone piece was in the right direction. It makes it look like it's supposed to be directional, but when you look at the piece itself, it's identical on both sides. So, okay, we'll go with it. We'll go with it. Dissolved putty. Yes, I have that as well. That is another option. Although dissolved putty, I noticed, does kind of retract when it dries. Like you can put some on there, and then as it dries, it will shrink a little bit. So that's one of the drawbacks with that. I think Mr. Surfacer 500 is a little bit easier to. It doesn't quite shrink as much, I think, as the Mr. Dissolved Putty. And I think that's behind my laptop. Otherwise, I'd pull it out here and show it for everybody. The bottle of that. I think I've got an extra one, but I've got to find it. You have some of that too. Thanks. Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's why you apply a few layers. Yeah, that's true. He's talking about that dissolved putty. Yeah, you have to kind of build it up. I've gotten used to doing that too. If I'm filling in like a injection pin mark or something, I'll just I'm almost bubble it up like a dome a little bit, and then when it dries, of course, it shrinks down a little bit, and then you don't have as much to sand off. But just little tricks that you learn along the way whenever you use that stuff the first time. Just stuff that I've noticed. So I'm just moving this here because I got that. Obviously, got glue in the joint. Just want to make sure this is going to continue to move. These pieces are lined up as good as they're going to get before I got to do seam fixing on them. So I'm just making sure that those don't. Now I can feel that loosening up. So it's probably going to sit there just fine. All right. So it looks like right arm. This is from a previous step. This is a little hatch. Kind of opens up. Not sure what for. That's probably not going to be used when we're using it this way. So we're going to take up the arm pieces here. So, okie dokie. 88 and 87. Yeah, here talking about warped runners. There's another one. Wow, go wonky. What is it? I was like, Mr. Prime Front, a thin 1-to-1 for airbrushing? No. Do not use it for airbrushing. It is made. I don't think you could airbrush with it. I've never tried airbrushing with it. No, it's like Mr. Surfacer 1000, but just a lot thicker, so you can brush it on and fill gaps and stuff with it. I would not try to airbrush with it. I mean, by the time you get it thin enough to airbrush, you might as well just be using Surfacer 1000. 88, 87, right? Yeah. Okay. And then I need 63, which is another one. 63 is going to be, where is that going to be? Oh, it's got to be on this one. Where did I get 63? Oh, there they are. I was looking at the back of them. This is like a little double turret sticking out of the forearm there. Okay. So I got my wrist portion. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot here because we're getting into some complicated assembly steps here with all these pieces I've got kind of in stages of drying. Angel's in. What's up, Angel? How you doing, buddy? Good to have you, as always. You got to thin the shit out of it, he says. Yes, you do. Yeah, it's pretty much what he said. It's not, you have to thin it. Spraying 1000 is better. That is true. Everything we all just said. So maybe I'll hand paint some tonight. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I do. Whenever I use that Surfacer 500, it's just basically dabbing it on. Like if I've got a tiny bit of a seam that's just not quite perfect, you can use that thing to fill in the primer, and then once it's dry, it sands just like your regular surfacer. So you should be fine with it. But definitely not made for airbrushing. Potato. What's up, Potato? Potato's in the house again. How you doing, man? Good to have you. I was thinking about switching up the. I have the option to use Instagram as well as a recording location for these live streams. But then it said something to me when I was getting ready to select Instagram. I was going to get rid of Twitch actually, or for temporarily just try it out. But then it tells me that Instagram deletes videos after a certain amount of time. So I'm not even sure that I would be able to keep it on my Instagram if I record there. So I went back to using Twitch just to make sure we don't lose the recordings. I'm doing good. How about you? I'm doing good. Doing pretty good. Getting old. Sucks getting old. That's for sure. But all right, so this is the forearm piece that actually has the two holes that this thing goes on to, so you can kind of see how that works. And because those two pegs are polycap, it kind of presses in with a little bit of a tension, like a rubbery tension fit. So that's nice. I'll probably end up just gluing it in place when I'm ready to go, but that's probably why they did that. And these are supposed to go in. Gosh, there's like no. Let me turn that around. One side has a polycap and one does not. Wow. So the polycap side really is hard to get that peg in there. Damn. It's not easy. Let me see if it goes in on this side. No. Okay, I'm gonna have to work on that. This polycap is only on one side of this piece, this joint. I'll finish that sentence in a second here. I'm just reading that. I've been trying to get George to switch to YouTube for years. He doesn't want to do it. Yeah, I know. He's been talking about it. Totally been talking about it. But anyway, the polycap on here it's only on one side. And it almost feels like the peg hole in the polycap is a little bit small. So this wants to fit really tight. But because I still got some seams to fix on these pieces, I'm not going to do that assembly right now. Here's the wrist portion, and this is where that fits into that slot. So there's a slot on both sides. I'm going to just put this together roughly just so you can see what's going on here. Hopefully it won't fall apart on me as I try to go together. Okay. So, gosh, this is going to be so wonky. This is going to be one of the hardest seams, I think, to get right. So this kind of fits. There's just, again, no alignment pegs. You just got to put it together. All right, so here you can see this wrist piece is designed to slide back into the forearm for whatever, transformation or whatever you're doing. Mine is going to be all the way forward. So there'll be some black, painting done to the interior of this so you don't see inside there. There is this hinged portion that's supposed to go. See if I could even manage to get that in there too. Sort of. There we go. So this sits over the top and is supposed to kind of snap down into place. So you can kind of see that here's where the hand sits. It pushes all the way forward. Gosh, I don't even know. Is that how does that slide forward? I'll figure that out later. So yeah, but boy, there is again no alignment pins, nothing. So these seams are going to be horrendous. That's going to be a fun step when we get to that point. So anyway, I might as well see what I can do after this because I still got to wait for the glue to dry on these. I've got a lot more pieces to fix first before I can assemble these arms. I'm too old to type comments on the damn Instagram screen. Yeah, it is kind of funny because you only can do it on your mobile device. So if you got a tablet, I'm sure it's a little bit easier, but I'm going to cut out I guess what I'll do here, I'm going to label these inside just so I don't forget which one's which here. So 85, 86. That's because there is, a left and a right. So I want to make sure when I do cut these out that I know which one goes where. All right, and then that's all for that one. And then we got, I think, one more of these 63s here. 4-on guns. Where are we at? 7:15. Got about 15 minutes. A little over 15 minutes. So Mike, was it you that was telling me when I first put the wood floors in here, you're like, or was it, actually, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was you talking about losing pieces. And I'm like, yeah, it'll be easy to find, whatever, because now it'll just bounce off the floor. Well, no sooner did I say that I lost my first piece on the Metal Gear Rex the other day because it flew down, went under the running or the baseboard, and then dropped down behind the air gap between the boards and the actual wall. So it's gone. I had to manufacture, actually, I had to scratch build another piece. Fortunately, it was just like one of the little, just small flat piece I could make out of plastic strip easily enough. But it was like a little missile cover. All right, so I'm just cleaning these up roughly. I'm not going to do too much because I'm going to have to seam fix anyway. Although these on top here, because they're kind of an open panel, I can go ahead and sand those. There we go. Okay. So set these aside. Get rid of this old hand. We're not using that. Let's see. This is what I could probably do now. Let's go back and start filling this in with CA glue, because once I do that, I get that hole filled in. This is, again, for the hands. I'm going to be drilling a hole, a 5/32 hole for this to pop into. So the hands will fit in there. And then, but before I do that, I want to fill in the old hole with some CA glue, and then I'm going to put another piece of this 1.5 mil, or this is, might be 1.5 mil. Feels like 1.5 mil. Let's see. Yeah, it's about 1.5. I'll put another piece on top, and then, of course, that's after I fix the seams and everything. And then I will sand that down to, follow the bevel of that wrist portion there. Off to bed. Okay, Mike. See you later, buddy. Good to have you. See you next time. I'll match the beveled lines or beveled angles of the wrist, and then we'll mark the center point, drill that hole, slowly stepping up to 5/30 seconds, and then we should have a nice connection for that wrist. So I'm just going to drop in a little bit of glue here. I may have to do this a couple times. So there's kind of a bulbous little, I got a little too much. I was trying to make sure I had a little bit over what I needed, because when I put this accelerator on there, it's going to take a little bit to get through a rather large drop of glue. So again, with these little applicators, I can control how much goes on. One little drop. Let that activator do its job. So what am I making? Oh, sorry, Potato, I missed your question. I am making this guy. It's an old beat up Robotech Changers. They call it the Nebo. It's an Orgus kit from the Orgus series, Japanese anime Orgus series. I'm doing the Orgeroid version, so I'll be building that one there. This is my entry for the Old to Gold contest for a USA Gundam store. So that worked pretty well. There's a little bit of a divot from where the accelerator kind of cavitated that hole a little bit. So that's okay. We can always go right back in and do this again. I'm going to sand this down anyway. So I'm just kind of, I took off too much. Just trying not to, let's see, I'm going to use a toothpick. A little bit of a hole there. Especially when you use this much glue, like a dab of glue like this. It tends to, with the activator, it tends to cavitate a little bit sometimes and leave a hole. So now we got some more to fill that. We're going to put another drop accelerator on there. Let that do its job. And then we can do the other side. This one. All right. Yeah, there we go. Now I can see it. That looks good. Once it dries and crystallizes, I can see that it's filled up slightly over the height of the hole, which is perfect, because then I can sand that nice and smooth, and you won't even know it's there, and it'll add an extra layer of rigidity to this when I drill through it. A slightly smaller hole when I drill through it with to put that fit the new wrist pin, essentially. All right, drop of accelerator, Instaset, if you will. That's also the Bob Smith Industries Instaset. I mentioned earlier, when using the Instaset, it does get old. If you leave it in the bottle a little too long, it will eventually lose its ability to work as well. If you're interested in these little bottles, you can find them on my Amazon store. They come in a pack of 3. The link is on my Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken. If you can't find it, just message me and I will copy it over and send you the link for it. But I have all the tools, and a lot of the tools, not everything, but most of the tools and supplies I use every day doing this hobby. I'm just making sure these elbows are still nice and loose. This one feels like it has a little more resistance, but it's just probably because it gummed up a little bit. But it feels like they're not going to cure now. It's not going to be stuck together, so we're good. All right. So now those are drying. I got to let those seams dry a little bit longer. Probably going to let that happen overnight. I could try to start doing them now, but they're probably still soft. So let's move on. Do something different. What's this? My BSI is still unusable, or still usable, but it's turned a bit yellow. Yeah, you're talking about the accelerator. That's what I was talking about earlier. I noticed that too. It was kind of a yellowish color, and it just it was the last of a bottle that I had. I bought the original pump, and then I just poured it into here. But now I just went and bought the big 8-ounce refill and just fill it up when I need it. But yeah, the same thing happened to me. It was like I would put it on there and let it dry, and the glue was not even cured. I thought, wow, that's interesting. So that was something I learned, that it does lose its ability to cure if it gets old. So we're going to be using some metal parts in these next few steps here. There are a few metal parts in this kit, hinges mostly. Some of them were in this back portion here. You can see these hinges. These also swivel, like this whole thing will swivel, not just this part here that's on this hinge, but these actual pins move up. You can see how they move as well. Actually, the cure doesn't actually cure instantly. It acts as a stopper for where the glue is going to stay on that spot. Oh. Okay, that makes sense too. It does cure quite quickly though when you use it, you have to say. All right, so I also need these straight pins out of here. So there's 4, or maybe just one. Maybe I should only be doing one. Oh no, there's both steps here. Okay, so trying to fish out these little straight pins. There's 2 more pieces for something later. All right, and then we've got these polycap pieces in 3. Oh, there's a difference. There's a 3 and a 4. So 3 goes in 17, step 17. So we'll do that first. So one of these. This one's for later, and then I need 62. 62, come here. There you are. I have no idea what these are, what I'm assembling here. It's some kind of metal hinge that has a polycap. There's a hole through it, which has got a bunch of flash in it. Man, this is probably the roughest piece I've seen in this kit so far. All right. Okay, so this goes this way. This pops in there. Then this is supposed to sit on here. I've got to balance this. This is on here while this goes through that hole. No glue. Get in there. Oh, that does not want to fit together. All right, let's start over. Oh, that's why. I think they made this hole square, so this really has to fit tightly in there. Okay. It's just the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to try to set this down. I don't know if that's going to be any easier. Try to assemble this, but nope. Clearly not. So this sits here. This goes here. And the pin goes through. There we go. Started to get it. Oh boy. Damn. I don't know if that's supposed to go all the way through or not. I think it is. Let me carve out the rest of this flash here and see where it's at. Okay, it does look like it's supposed to go all the way through. I think it is. So I may have to just grab the edge of the table here. I'm trying to get this pin in, but super tight. So I'm gonna have to grab some pliers here and get some assistance. This is a bit tight. All right. So let's see if I can get this to go through. There we go. Okay. That worked like a charm. Okay, so this little sliding pin here, that's what I was trying to assemble. Let's do the other side. So we pull off 61. Since there seems to be a left and a right to this. I mean, I guess they wanted that pin to fit tightly, and they did a good job of doing that. They just made it made that hole kind of square so it has a really tight fit. So I had to use the pliers on it. Right, and then I need this strange little polycat. There it is, number 4. It's not really a cap, it's like a flat tab. It just sits on top of this. So that goes like that. This goes like that. Man, my fingers are not small enough for this. Okay, got it in there. Now I gotta crimp it back down. Sorry if I'm off camera. I'm trying to balance all these pieces together here. There. Hoo-wee. All right. So those are those 2 pieces. Put that back on. Oops. Don't want my glue to dry up. Let's put that back together. Okay. Let's see what's next. I'm going to roll the page over here and see what we got. Oh, interesting. Wow. Short, long, interesting. Yeah, it's mostly it's the shoulder assembly that we're doing next after that. So that's going to get a little more involved. In the meantime, I'm going to have to fix all these seams so I can assemble the rest of this stuff. For that matter. Anyway, looks like that's where we're at. Anyway, for this, Julius brother, blah blah. Hey, Manny. Manny's in. How you doing? I missed you. Sorry, dude. I was looking down. I had to. Oh, you got to walk the dog. Okay, Julius. Sorry, buddy. See you later. Unless you're back. I don't know if you're back or not. I had my head down here. I had some really tight fitting pieces I had to focus on. In the meantime, let's go back to. Now, like this is the bench so far. Still just a mess. But I think I've solved this third party, these Gundam hand parts that I'm going to be using. Once I get the wrist piece drilled out. This will fit in there nicely. I'll probably have a nice looking hand instead of this clunky looking piece of crap that came with it. All right, guys. Gonna leave you hanging. Sorry, yeah, it's at 7:30 here. Got to wrap it up. Got to wrap everything up. Eventually, can't stay on all night long. I'm gonna do that on holidays, special occasions, right? Anyway, yeah, I just have a lot of seams to fix. There's not a lot more I can do on camera tonight. I'm looking down at the booklet here. And we're going to get into the shoulders, but I've got to assemble the forearm. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on there in the meantime. So I guess I could go on to the feet, but maybe we'll start that next week. But this is it's time to wrap it up anyway. So for the rest of the week, I'll be fixing all the seams on these the shoulder or the elbows and the forearm pieces. Hopefully, get some more assembly done there. We'll drill out those wrists and get the hand portion attached. I'm going to laminate that piece on there, as I was talking about earlier. Laminate the plastic, and then bevel it to match the bevels on the wrist. Drill the hole, fit the hands, and then that'll be done there. And then we'll move on. It looks like we're getting close to finishing the arms up, and then we'll do the legs. But what are we talking about here? What grip sandpaper should I use? Yeah, 400, 600 is good. These sponges, I usually use I do use a 240 as well for the sanding sponges, the God hand sponges, for doing curved surfaces. And if I typically go back to the 400 to kind of smooth that out after that. The 400 would be my go-to for most of my sanding stuff, like even like this big stick that I've been using, that's a 400. So yeah, good answer there. 400 to 600. It's 10:30 p.m. Yeah, I know it's 10:30. Aren't you in like New York or something like that, Manny? I thought, or at least I thought you were. I think aren't you in New York? I don't know. My memory serves. 800 to shine the S out of it. Yes, that is true. 100 is correct. He says 800. Yeah, and you can go even higher than that if you really want to polish it. If you're polishing plastic, especially if you want something if you're not painting a particular surface or something like that you want to do. But anyway, thanks everybody for coming in tonight. Great show. We'll keep moving forward on this project, this contest entry for Old to Gold, and we'll see where we're at next week, and hopefully get these seams fixed and be able to start building more or put more together. So thanks again, everybody. Appreciate each and every one of you. Be good humans. We'll see you next time. Talk to you on the flip.